I guess the thing that I want to remind everybody of is just how generous this community is. I still get really kind of overcome with the thoughts of how we got this library. Do you realize in most situations, a library is a bond issue, like the fire department or the police department or parks? And in many other places, that's how they're still doing that. I mean, I read all the time, they're doing a bond issue to get a new library. The citizens gave us this library. I didn't do it. Y'all didn't do it. The Friends did it, and the trustees did it. And I'm proud of them. I really am. But anyway, the women did donate their assets, and I know that they wanted them to be carefully used. And that group dissolved, but it became the Council of Women's Clubs. And I had mentioned to Will that there's a whole nother story in here, because the Council of Women's Clubs then went on and helped with the Civic Center. And so women's history in Marshall hasn't ever been addressed, but that's not my mission here. In my notes, I kind of went back and forth because I didn't have a lot of time to really deal with it, but I wanted you to know that this library was made Library of the Year in 1975 by the Texas Library Association. We went to Fort Worth and accepted that award. And then we became the All-America City in '76, and the library was named in that nomination. Max Lale penned that nomination. It was a masterpiece. Oh, Tony put a trip together, and there were 19 men and me. Actually, that's another whole story. There were 18 men and me, and I didn't want to go, and so we had to figure out how to fund Lewis, and it's a unique way, but I won't go into that story. It was okay, and we paid for it, didn't we? We did. And I think the Friends might have given me...
Racetrack, baby.
Oh. Anyway, no matter how we figured it, it cost him $800 to go on that trip, and the Friends gave me $300, I think, for my part of the trip, which was also $800. But anyway, we get to fund a lot of things. And I wanted to tell you about the All-America City for a special reason, because the City Commission went on that trip with us. And I hadn't even thought about being on the City Commission at that time. I was just working on the library. And we got to that meeting, and it seems like I remember Sam Mosley being there. He might have been chairman of the trustees. But between he and Sam Birmingham and some of the, I can't remember, Carl, there were a whole bunch of commissioners there. And this was the Civic League, which I'm really not too sure about. I didn't ever follow it up. But we attended their meetings, and they had meetings on the arts, which I loved, on libraries, on parks, which when we did this library, there was no parks department, none. So we've come a long way. And so I just made all these people go with me to these meetings, but it expanded my horizons in going and hearing what wonderful things people were doing all over this country, and things that we could all do here too. And I think that might have had a lot to do with where I ended up too. There was an article in Southern Living about us being an All-America City, and it had a picture of Carl Cassiopa and Charlie Spangler for his urban renewal, and me, and it was a really good article. Talking about the librarians, I want to go back to that. I said that Dorothy was hired in 1971 and was here 16 years, and then Steve Horton, who was probably one of the best reference librarians I've ever known, tried to be head librarian, and that didn't work, and so Dorothy had to come back, and she did. And then after she finally retired, she went to Hawkins and started a public library there because of what she learned while she was here. And I think she helped them in Gilmer too, to do a library. Then after that, Justine Frank served as acting director for a while, acting librarian, and then came Ann Grimm, and she cleaned up a lot. She got rid of some things. And then Patsy came, and she was here for 15 years. And I don't know whether you all have stopped to think about what happened during Patsy's term here, but all we had was a cable to the children's area for listening to some tapes when we built the building. We knew we needed cable, but computers weren't here. Nobody had even thought about computers. But by the time Patsy got here, they were thought about. And she did something, and I always have to write this down because I can't imagine how she did it. It was called retrospective conversion, and it meant that she had to recatalog everything in this library and computerize her, and it took quite a while, and everything was processed so that we could be computerized, and she did that, and I don't know that we ever really thanked her for it. Diane Turner was active for a while on the trustees, and I forgot to mention that Richard and Mary, probably, were you the only wedding that's ever been held in this gold room?
We were the first.
I know you were the first. You were the first. And then how many times have you been president of the Friend? 3? That's probably some kind of record. Anyway, there are just so many places that people have helped. And the Andrew Norman Foundation really didn't care whether we did much of anything to recognize them, but finally, after we asked them a number of times, they said they would like to remember Bunny and Virginia's parents, and that's why this is called the Gold Room. It's to honor their part of what we did. The building was $500,000. The Andrew Norman Foundation upped their amount to $150,000 before it was over, and our part was $150,000, and then there was a $75,000, and then all these other smaller grants, plus a lot of other things that were put together. So for years and years and years, the Friends and the trustees have worked together on common goals. What happened? We just really don't know each other anymore. If you're a trustee, would you please raise your hand? I know Lynn is here, and he's the chairman of it, right? Are you still the chairman? Is anyone else here that's a trustee? You're a trustee? I'm Audrey Kariel.
I know. I know.
Would you say your name?
Eva Oliver.
Oh, Eva Oliver. I've heard your name, but I believe this is the first time. Have we met?
Yes, I used to work at the water plant.
Oh, and I would come in there. Yeah, well, you looked familiar, but. And Lou, did you raise your hand? Are you a trustee? So that's 3 trustees, but there are 7. And I think I'm troubled. And Lynn and Eva and Lou, you can go back and tell the trustees. I mean, it's not a secret. But when I think of how we all work together, and now I didn't even know, for sure who you were. I don't think that's right. It's something about it is bothering me. I'm going to go back because I forgot something. When we had the groundbreaking for this building, I remember the date. It was December 6, 1972. George Rogers was the architect. Nancy Conwell, sitting back there, was chairman of the event, and she was very pregnant. This was December the 6th. When was Jennifer born?
The 18th.
We were afraid she was going to be born at the groundbreaking, but she wasn't. It was a bitter cold day, bitter cold. But Finn and Martin got on a big backhoe, and they, dug up some ground, and we were on our way.